Hi, this is Cathy for Trans by Deaf, and this week's topic is there a right time to transition, and are you ever too old to transition? Is there a right time to transition? The answer is yes. There is a time when you have sufficient maturity, sufficient resources, and sufficient energy to transition. I stop and think back of when I was 8 years old and asked my mother if I could transition, and again when I was 12. I did not have the maturity at that time to transition, nor did I have the support of my family, nor did I have the support of the people around me, nor did I have the financial resources or a place to live and an education to make money to keep me going. When I was 20 and in college, I faced the same problem. I did not have the resources to transition. I did not have an education. I did not have a job. I did not have the house to live in or a way in which I could survive when I had transitioned. And that transition ended up in total failure. So as far as is the right time, yes. When I reached the age of 58, I realized that I had the financial resources. My wife knew what was going on and was willing to support me. My family was willing to support me. I had a job where I was protected from the wrath of those who are against transition and against us trans girls, and I felt that I could successfully transition this time. I also believe that I had sufficient time to get over the failed earlier attempts of transition, particularly the one when I was in my 20s, where I was told by everybody around me that if I transitioned, I would be kicked out. I had no place to live and no place to go and no way of making money and no job. As much as I would like to say I would like to have transitioned at that period, that was a total impossibility because I had no money, I had no education, I had no house. When I was in my 50s, I had a house, I had property, I had a family who was always supportive of me, particularly my wife and daughter. I had a job where they had come out with a non-discrimination clause which protected people no matter what their gender preference, or anything else was, which then made it possible for me to transition because I knew my job would stay there. I knew my family would support me, and I knew that I had a house to live in, and if that didn't work out, if my wife decided later that she didn't like me, I could always go to my property and live there. So I believe that yes, there is a right time to transition when you have sufficient resources, a place to live, a stable job, and the support or apparent support of your family and the people that you need that support from in order to continue. Now, as to addressing the question, are you ever too old to transition? I would say the answer initially is if you discover that you're transgender and you are in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, it is possible for you to transition. However, it is very difficult. One of the things that I have encountered as an older person transitioning is that your health is not to the point where it was in the past. In my case, my family physician and my endocrinologist both advised me that having SRS would be very difficult at my age. And they asked what would be the point of having SRS at your age and risking all of the health problems and the recovery time. A year or so ago, I was struck by an SUV and pinned underneath that SUV on my way to work. It has taken me nearly 2 years to recover from a broken leg and a broken shoulder, and I'm still not totally recovered. The idea that my health would not recover fast from SRS or as fast as it would for a young person really makes me stop and think and consider, do I want to transition? Do I want to continue and have SRS? Do I want to risk the point of not recovering from that surgery? I do know of several other people who have had SRS in their 60s and have done very well. However, I have had to stop and think about it, and on the recommendation of my physicians, seriously consider not doing that. I also see no reason to waste the $25,000 for SRS when I am already married and I enjoy my wife and my life the way I have it. So I think there are some limits to when you can transition. There are limits of health, there are limits of stability, there are limits to your ability to adapt to those circumstances. However, if you feel it necessary, yes, I would like to say one other thing about transitioning as an older person in their late 50s. It was much more difficult in my late 50s than it would have been in my 20s when I could have it moved in and adjusted to the circumstances around me. It makes me consider, did I make the right decision? And I will say I came to a point in my life at age 58 where I could no longer remain a man. I had to transition to become a woman because I did not feel right. I did not, all I wanted to do was be depressed and stay away from other people. And now I've transitioned. I feel so much better health-wise. I feel so much better as far as my performance in other things, that it has been every bit of it has been worth every minute of my transition. Well, in summary, I would say there is a right time to transition when you have the proper resources, proper support, and proper housing to survive. If you do not have those, transitioning is almost an impossibility for you as an individual. As in summing up age, the older you get, the more difficult the SRS surgery will be, and any other surgeries you have, and the longer the recovery time will be for those surgeries. Well, I thank you for joining me, and I will see you again next week. If you have a comment or a question, please leave it in the comments below, and I'll be happy to get back with you. You have a good evening. Bye.